All right, down to the bottom right-hand corner of Crevasse, we have SlayerS.Ryung spawning as our red Terran player. He is taking one game from Mouz, their representative down here at the bottom left-hand corner. That is HasuObs. He is spawning as our yellow Protoss player. Now, as both the names are in English and Mouz is using generic accounts, it looks like they decided to play these games on NA. Maybe they just decided that a little bit of lag for everyone was better than, you know, no lag for one particular side over the other. Not really sure what their justification was, but nonetheless, Ryung put up a very, very convincing performance in game number 1, and HasuObs certainly one of Mouse's best. I love casting his games. He's a fantastic player.
Yeah, no doubt about it. HasuObs is a great player. More known for his PVT, and, you know, that's the matchup they probably threw him in here for.
Certainly.
It's certainly his strongest matchup from what I've seen. Really likes that late game PVT where he just goes into super heavy gateway mode, goes up to like 17. I've seen him go up to 20 and higher from time to time.
When he's on 4, base looks up, realizes he's got like 1,500 banked. He's just like, hey, here's another 10 gateways.
Yeah,
and
I mean, why not, really? Yeah. It's like, it gives you the option to store a ton of resources into the late game, and then once that big fight happens, you know, you can trade relatively even with the Terran, and then...
And the fact that you can produce 20 units at a time is really, really effective.
Three warp gate cycles later, the Terran's still queued 3 deep on his 7 Raxes, and you have another 60 supply on the field.
Yeah, but Ryung, man, he's a guy who knows how to make macro work as well. An extremely effective player. He's actually dropping down a 14 command center, 14 CC dropping down. So he's going to go for that very early expand. Looks like this is going to be... Is he putting up... Yeah, looks like HasuObs is getting gas, but only has 2 harvesters on gas, so wasn't that committed to it for a long period of time, so we will see an early expand out of him as well. And he'll time that nicely where he can put up warp gate technology on normal timings, but he just won't produce a lot of stalkers or sentries behind it until he gets up that expansion.
Now, I wonder if HasuObs will contour his build at all, because he did kind of luck out with this super early scout. He saw the CC first. There's a number of things he can do as a response to this, but I don't think that a lot of the things he would do really fit with his playstyle. We have seen a few players lose to that Void Ray all-in on this map.
Yeah.
Where they just continually build Void Rays and go up to 3 or 4 before they actually reveal it. That can be very difficult to hold off. It's like a 2-gate Void Ray build, but he's already in position to build that Nexus, and there it goes. So we are going to see a relative macro game out of these two players. Sometimes games do end early, even though players get a super quick CC or Nexus, because... This is StarCraft 2.
You can hit a really nice
timing, and you can hit timings as well. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, especially at this stage in the game, if he just goes quick 5-gate +1 armor or something like that, he may be able to catch Ryung off guard. Consequently, if Ryung just does the 3 racks and tries to hit a quick timing behind Medivacs or something with +1 weapons, he could do just as well. Looks like a bunker's going to be put in place for him, though, so so he's going to be pretty defended, and it looks like he wants to make sure that he doesn't die to any sort of very, very early pressure.
I feel like that's a really early bunker on his part. Generally, you will get a bunker after the... Well, I guess the timings are all different. I was going to say after the second depot, but that's if you 1-racks gasless FE, and you know, he obviously doesn't need to do that.
Right. HasuObs, on the other hand, he's adding in gateway number 2 and starting to produce stalkers as he is now finally on double assimilators. But I don't know what tech path he's going to go down. He is saving up a little bit of gas, but just going into heavy gateways for the time being. It could be pretty predictable. 3-gate robo into 6-gate behind Colossi or something like that. But Ryung, he's already got his 3rd barracks coming down. He's not had to mine too much gas quite yet, opting to throw down that refinery on the Rich Vespian Geyser, which tells me he's just going to go with a couple upgrades or something along those lines. He's not going to invest into factory and medevac super, super early.
Very true. Going to scout with a couple of Marines here. He can take control over the North Xel'Naga at least, and he sees that Stalker. Going to try and push that back. He also has an SCV coming as well. He could push with the Marines and scout with that SCV at the same time, but he's just going to leave that SCV at the Xel'Naga for now.
And let's see here. Oh, he throws down a scan, knows exactly what his opponent is up to at the moment. Should see multiple gas as well. And looks like Robo Facility is coming up for HasuObs at the moment. On the other hand, though, Ryung is just on 4 racks. He's not shown any tech yet. He's finally adding a second assimilator, but he has Stim coming up, and it looks like he just wants to mass a bunch of units and hit his opponent, because frankly, HasuObs really doesn't have that much on the ground. 1 sentry, 3 stalkers, that's only a token force compared to what Ryung will have in a second.
Yeah, it seems like HasuObs is trying to get pretty greedy here, and I feel like you can on this map. You have that tight choke. You can afford to get greedy economically and tech-wise, so he's going to get super fast Colossus here, probably going to get early range and just start chrono boosting out Colossus immediately after he gets that support bay up. Now, this timing push from Ryung could be problematic for him. So he's not going to have that many units, but also Ryung isn't going to have quick enough medevacs to really force his way into the main of HasuObs. So
he'll be able to stim once if he sees an opening, maybe twice, but that would be if he can get in and kill production structures. So
yeah,
he'll make one big push, and that's about all he's got.
Yeah, I mean, he could use it to deny the third for quite a while, though.
Yeah.
Which is what I'm thinking might happen here. He's going up to 700 resources here. He could drop a command center here and then take his third while he's containing HasuObs to 2 base, and he could get pretty far ahead in that regard if he chooses to.
And Marine was chasing down the probe for a little while. That probe coming back, and he is not going to be happy with that decision. A few units coming out of HasuObs, though. Ryung doesn't have all of his forces at the front, so this force out of HasuObs could actually do some damage. That is going to force Ryung to retreat back to his base for the time being, but he's putting up a 3rd command center. He's going over to, there we go, the reactor start port is up now, so he is in pretty darn good position to execute just a pretty standard MMM build. HasuObs, on the other hand, his tech is now in place, so he can start pumping out units, and that's good for him because the longer he delays now, the more powerful that Colossus ball is going to get.
Yeah, and HasuObs, one of those players, a few force shields going down there, but actually not quite where he wanted. Most of his units did still manage to get into that fight, although I think HasuObs came out ahead there.
Yeah, he did. He really did.
HasuObs actually taking a super quick third here. And using just his gateway units to try and hold off here. I don't know if he has enough, though. This is going to be a pretty close fight here. Several Marauders are just teeing off, and they might be able to get this Colossus out in the open. Beautiful move right there from Ryung. He will lose these. Oh, no, the Medevac's actually joining in at the perfect time. Will save those 2 Marauders, and they will live to fight it again another day. And that first Colossus pickoff right there was absolutely huge for Ryung. Yeah, I mean, just dwindling down those Colossus numbers and then picking off the first one just mentally, that's got to hurt for HasuObs. He should have kept that alive and used it more to bait than actually join into that conflict.
I doubted Ryung at first. I mean, and I think HasuObs had kind of the same inclination. He got him to stim once, threw down the force fields, picked off a lot of units. HasuObs had an advantage, and then he thought, all right, that's going to force him back to his home. I can just kind of mosey on back, protect my third, we'll be in a good spot, I'll let this Colossus catch up. And Ryung stimmed again, which was incredibly risky, but managed to make it work. I think he caught HasuObs just as off guard as he did me.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt about it. The stim was already, he had already triggered the stim right when that Colossus got there, and he immediately pulled those Marauders off to the left and picked off the Colossus, which, I mean, without that super fast split-second reaction time, I don't think he would have been able to do that, but there already are 2 additional Colossus out on the field here for HasuObs. No upgrades just yet for either player, it looks like. Okay, +1 for Ryung, but no forge for HasuObs, and I think that
he did just finish his forge, and so he has +1 on the way, but he's very, very late on his.
Yeah, that could come back and haunt him a little bit. He might. HasuObs one of those players that really likes to get his upgrades going early and continuously throughout the game, and that's something that makes him so strong in the late game. Is that his units are so heavily upgraded. He can pick off Vikings with stalkers, and then he has the armor upgrades. Drop going off here. Right into all of these stalkers, and he keeps the second medevac alive. Beautiful micro right there.
That was impressive.
He's still going to lose this entire drop, though.
He is, but he's already killed 3, 4, 5 stalkers, a few probes, 1 or 2 zealots as well. Not like it was as effective as he wanted, but he still made it as effective as possible. Actually, I apologize. At the same time, HasuObs brought his units through the middle, and Ryung actually picked up and got away because he was more concentrated on the drop and didn't want to lose units here at the front. There's a couple of Vikings, though, that are going to start picking away these Colossi. 1 or 2, no. I thought more than one volley was going to go off there, but the Vikings are forced to retreat as the Colossi pulled off onto open ground where the Stalkers could engage.
Oh, wow, and now we have 4 Vikings being produced at a time here from Ryung, so really scaling his army properly to deal with the super fast Colossus out of HasuObs.
Certainly, and let's see if that's going to be enough, because we already see a Charge Light Archon switch here for HasuObs. So if this could actually work out to HasuObs' favor. If he gets Ryung to overcommit to Vikings, and then he goes right into heavy Charge Light Archon, yeah, the Vikings are going to kill the Colossi, but he won't have much left over to deal with the ground forces.
It's very true. And, he started adding the Colossus so early on that he's really heavily dependent on them. Now, one thing HasuObs is really good about is the late game switch between High Templar and Colossus. He kind of forces you to commit so heavily to all these Vikings, and then, oops, he switches right over to High Templar with Storm. You don't have any ghosts on the field, but it looks like Ryung is on top of this. He does have Mobius Reactor coming. He already has the Ghost Academy. We do see Storm being researched right now. I don't know how many High Templar are out on the field just yet. I'd imagine he's going to start warping them in pretty soon.
There they come.
So 4 out on the field right now.
Yep, and this is the 5th. So he's going to have a few storms ready for this engagement. Looks like both players are sitting back until they get reasonably close to maxed. We do have a 4th base coming out of both players. Command center over here to the right for Ryung. And, HasuObs has one at the top left-hand corner, but it's spotted. The Marine finds it. He's going to start going to work on this. Zealot charge is done, however, and the Zealot will come in and clean up that Marine. So it's protected for now, but HasuObs is going to have to defend over at the top left.
And he does not have enough Stalkers to cover right now for his Colossus. He needs to get Blink, and he needs to get some more Stalkers. I don't think... Oh, Storm goes down there. A little bit preemptive, I think, on...
At least premature, the positioning better for HasuObs so he can move up his army, though.
It did indeed.
And nonetheless, here comes Ryung. He's going to make his way back down. He wants to push his way into that position. Again, just positional storms being thrown down for HasuObs to keep Ryung off of that spot as HasuObs just increases his army. He has Blink coming up along with 2/2 for his ground units. And yeah, Ryung is actually only on 1/1 as well, so both players are even on upgrades at the moment. And this army is continuing to get larger for HasuObs. Ryung, though, he does manage to pick away one of the Colossi, and starting to do some real damage with those Vikings.
Yeah, I mean, HasuObs needs to be really careful here. He's engaging in an almost purely micro battle here, but Ryung's working his way over to the 3rd here. Storm does go down. Doesn't really hit that many units, though.
No.
I'm not sure where he was anticipating that army was going to go.
But would have been a little bit better choice there. Nonetheless, Ryung is maxed. He's starting to bank resources, and does he have another base coming down? No, this is just turning into an orbital command at the moment, so he is fine with putting down 4 OCs, and he's going to start imposing his will on HasuObs' side of things. Saw 1 feedback hit. No storms have gone down. We're in a perfect place for a storm right there. Probably would have caught a few retreating Vikings as well, and here's the big engagement, and the EMPs take out a couple of the units at the front. Storms ravage the first group of Marines, but the Vikings have done their damage. The Colossi have gone down. The meat shield disappeared in the form of Zealots, and now just a few fragile Stalkers left, and it looks like Ryung is going to push HasuObs all the way back down to his 3rd.
Yeah, all the Vikings have landed. This army from Ryung seems to be just way too much for HasuObs to handle right now. He doesn't have any storms remaining. If he had maybe 1 or 2 storms left, Colossus does join the fight. The Vikings will pick up immediately and start going to town on that Colossus. A lot of probes are going down here at the 3rd. He will be able to hold this off, however, but losing a vast majority of his economy there.
Yeah.
And holding on to the 3rd. Still has his 4th up and running, but the reinforcements from Ryung, the macro, just kicking into high gear here. You can see units just streaming in from the main of Ryung. And we haven't really looked at either player's infrastructure at all this game. How many gates
Let's see.
are we working off here?
Yeah, he needs to turn some of those into warp gates, but it looks like 11 for the time being. Is there a couple more anywhere else? No, just 11 gate for now. On the other hand, SlayerS.Ryung is working off of 9 barracks.
Raxes?
Yeah, and double starport. Okay, I only
And
saw
he
the
has
one starport for a while.
3-3 on the way right now.
Yeah, and he has a 5th base coming up as well and dropping down a ton of mules.
Okay, and he has an extra macro orbital there outside his 3rd, it looks like, as well.
Wow. Okay, so
Yeah.
he's actually going to be on 6 CCs as he tries to move his way up to the top right. However, the Zealot sitting there knows that Ryung is looking to start moving up that way. More Colossi are being added into the mix. Bunch of high Templar there as well. And HasuObs going to try and catch a few units off guard. He does take out the missile turret in the middle of the map, but Ryung is going to rally his units down and start trying to gain that foothold back in the middle of the map again.
Now that Ryung has... Well, I mean, now that HasuObs actually has killed all of the Vikings, he can start adding Colossus back into the mix, and they'll be much more effective than they were previous.
Right.
The question is whether or not he knows about that and whether or not he's going to start doing that.
And there are it looks like there was a pack of 8 Marauders that were making their way down to the 3rd here. These Zealots and Stalkers are going to be able to intercept. A couple of High Templar are being thrown into the mix as well, as feedback should devastate the Medivacs, and they do. However, one Medivac still remains. The Charge Lots, they both go down. The Charge Lots are being forced back. At the same time, I thought Ryung may decide to move out. Looks like he's just moving towards the middle of the map while HasuObs is preoccupied, but HasuObs is going to be able to take out the rest of these units pretty easily. Here comes the engagement, though.
Ryung gonna stim in. No EMPs have gone down yet, but he does have HasuObs' forces split up a little bit here. HasuObs could have potentially have an opportunity to collapse here from the top and the bottom. If Ryung decides to commit to this position, and it looks like he actually is. So HasuObs needs to bring his force from up above at the same time, though, or he could be in trouble here, because that's a lot of supply of units not to be in the fight. Picking off quite a few Vikings. 2 go down right there.
Nice.
Doesn't lose a single Stalker, so good moves thus far out of HasuObs.
And he himself is expanding to the top left-hand corner here, but Ryung's going to make his way down to the 4th. Couple of storms going down on top of Medivacs. Feedback there on a couple of those Medivacs would have been a little bit more valuable to him. However, it looks like HasuObs is going to make his way in from the bottom. The Vikings are doing their work. They're not being focused down at the moment. Again, the Zealots have disappeared, and thus the rest of the Marauders are going to be able to chew their way through these Stalkers.
Yeah, Ryung is just getting ridiculously cost-effective right now. Majority of his army still remains. He's at 182 supply, 137 right now for HasuObs, and he's just desperately trying to reinforce. He's working off of quite a few gateways now, but these 3-3 upgraded bio forces with the ghost support are just ripping their way through everything right now. EMPs go off on everything. Another stim goes down. That Nexus will go down. The Medivacs are just healing away here. Those Colossus are going to get picked off by these Marauders. They both go down almost immediately.
Yep, and Ryung is starting to overrun. He's already killed 1 base. He's going to make his way down to the bottom left. I guess whenever he feels comfortable in doing so, he's reinforcing so well, producing 12 units or 12 bio units at a time in addition to 3 Medivacs, and continuing his upgrades. Personal Cloak for those Ghosts is going to be very useful as well. He'll be able to lead with those undetected. Storm goes down on top of a lot of the units, but Snipes are picking off High Templar. These are the last few units for HasuObs. He's making his way back. He has 1 Colossus out to hope to help to defend as well, but it's not going to be enough. Ryung going to be able to push his way in with this very, very large group of units.
Yeah, and that Colossus will go down. And with that, I mean, that was really the last high-tech unit that he had out on the field, along with that Archon that just instantly imploded.
Oh, reinforcements, and there it is. GG!